It's Bruno Mars and Cardi B. Please me, baby. God win. 7:25 in the AM. This is the 8th of December. This is a morning kiss. My name is Kamene Goro.
Jalas mwenyewe.
Now, my peoples, we are going to have a very important conversation because this is something we've talked about very many times. Madeni. Debt. And I'm not talking about your personal debt. I'm talking about our country's public debt. Yes, and what it has to do with your life.
Wow.
So many times we do, rough numbers. Oh, our country owes XYZ. And then if we divide it by Sijui, Akenangoa Nini, you'll have to pay 300 billion Kenya shillings or something like that.
That a child who's not even born is already owing.
Boss, you just check into this Kenya na ukona deni ya sijui so mbili na.
I'm telling you.
Not 200 Kenya shillings, 200,000 and.
But you see, people do not understand the impact that it has in their lives.
Kabisa.
When you see we are going for these loans today,
Yes.
Another 100 billion has been given. We have gone for I don't know how many billions.
Sijui we're borrowing, Sijui 2 billion, I don't know what. It's crazy. And many times we can laugh about it, but it has a very serious impact on your life, your future, your day-to-day, and then there are those things called taxes. My goodness. But we figured, we've been really fooling around with this topic. It was time for us to take it
I remember
very seriously.
People are telling IMF not to give us money, that it is enough, please.
No!
Please, it's enough. We don't want money.
Who told you to give us money? But the IMF, you're gonna stop that. Stop it. We don't like it, man. But in studio with us, we have an expert who's gonna break it down to you so that you understand the gravity of the situation that not only are we in as a country, but you as a young Kenyan are in when it comes to this debt issue we have. So, from the Institute of Social Accountability, we have Wanjiru Gikonyo, who's the national coordinator. And we're here to talk about public debt and the impact that it has on your day-to-day life. Welcome.
Thank you so much, Kamene.
How are you doing?
Nice to be here. I'm well, very well. It's an early morning to be out in the studio and bright, but happy to be here.
Thank you.
Yes.
Karibu. So, I say a lot of us are young, all right? Most of us are first-time taxpayers, first job, hustlers out here. We're paying VAT and what. But we know our country is in debt and worrying debt. And then they come to us with terms like, oh, public debt, sijui, I don't know what debt, nini. First of all, how are we doing as a country debt-wise? Very bad?
In fact, yes, we're doing very badly. We are part of a coalition. We've organized ourselves so far as civil society organizations, calling ourselves Okoa Uchumi. And we came to this name because we saw we are in a debt crisis that has become an economic crisis.
Yes.
Because if you're in debt, the way to pay off that debt is by raising more money,
yes,
by growing the economy.
Yes.
But when we looked at the factors around Kenya's debt, because some of these factors are corruption, that we don't follow the public finance laws.
Yes.
So the many factors around our debt are not just that we don't have enough money or there's a lot to spend on. There are many. So we looked at it as an economic crisis, called ourselves Okoa Uchumi, and our aim is to look for solutions because Kenyans know there is a problem.
Yes.
There was a study conducted last year.
Yes.
Towards the end of the year, there was a discussion that looked at a survey of people's views on public debt.
Yes.
And Kenyans know that we are in a debt crisis or in a debt problem. They also know it's because of mismanagement. They're also not happy. The problem becomes, what do we do about it?
Nice. So you've said public debt. What is public debt? So that we just get it clear. There are various levels of debt that our country is in, but most concerning is public debt. What's that?
Public debt is debt procured by government, and this can be procured domestically. Government can borrow from local banks, and it does. It borrows from local banks through treasury bills and bonds. Yes. So as it borrows, in fact, it borrows from the people of Kenya through the Kenyan bank. So you can buy your bills, you can buy your bonds, you invest in these what are called instruments. Government is able to use the money and will pay you back in 3 years, or in 6 months, in 5 years, in 10 years, depending on the instrument you use. So government can borrow from the local market.
All right.
Government can also borrow externally from what you call multilaterals. Multilaterals are institutions like the World Bank. These institutions are governed by principles called the Paris Principles, where they agree that we are going to give very concessional, very low interest levels of debt because our priority is to help development. Government can then also borrow from other governments bilaterally. Like the China loan that Kenyans are very unhappy about.
I'm telling you, hiyo inatumaliza.
Hiyo inatumaliza kabisa, but it's not the only one. So you can borrow from countries like China. And so when you borrow bilaterally, the terms are different. For instance, China was expensive debt, similar to commercial debt. So the most expensive is the commercial debt. That comes at high interest and very, very strict conditions. Kama hii Eurobond. Eurobond is a borrowing. It is a shorter term duration borrowing. It does not have as many conditions to qualify, but to repay. That is where the trick is. So the contract around Eurobond is very tight, such that when we got into COVID and businesses collapsed, in fact, something like 60% of informal businesses stopped operating. Watu walikaa nyumbani. Households did not have food security. And the government was looking at what do we do? How do we finance the response, buy masks, blah, blah, blah. Apart from the corruption, they needed to spend money to do this. So they said we need to borrow in a short term. From the IMF, the money is affordable, but from Eurobond, the money is extremely expensive. And even when government went into a very tight financial position, they could not renegotiate Eurobond. They were able to renegotiate the what you call the multilaterals, like the Swedish government, Japanese government. Those multilaterals, they were able to renegotiate the World Bank and IMF facilities.
But Eurobond
where they were given a moratorium for up to 3 years. Up to 3 years. Eurobond, you do not touch. In fact, with Eurobond, they say the moment you renegotiate, they consider it as default, and the penalties start to accrue. Now, who are the penalties falling on?
Us. Guys, I want you to marinate on that because inakaa tuko hadi pabaya. You can't renegotiate.
Tuko pale mbaya sana.
Sana.
Wait, didn't I just say that?
Wow, welcome back to the Morning Kiss. My name is Kamene Goro.
Hey VJ Baba.
In a studio with us, we have Wanjiru Gikonyo. We're here talking about debt, public debt, and I really was not ready.
She's from
She's
Okoa Uchumi.
Okoa Uchumi.
Okoa Uchumi.
Yes.
They realize
we need salvation. We need it. And we need it now.
So we were actually off mic. We were having a conversation right here. And you know, Jalanga was like, hey, so we're really borrowing a lot of chums from other countries.
Because you see, everybody always crucifies China
but they
as our only people who lend us.
And apparently,
from Gikonyo, kumbe we are taking money from all over.
In fact, you put it where you're like that Jama or that Mama who is borrowing. Everybody owes borrowing from everybody. We are that person.
We're that guy.
We are that person. And the thing with debt, because we all need debt. You'll borrow to build your house. Hopefully you'll have some down payment. You borrow a part and then you pay. So you don't borrow beyond what you can pay. Cost of borrowing is very important. And part of the problem we have as Kenya, between 2013 and 2015, 2016, we borrowed irresponsibly. We were borrowing expensively. Eurobond, Nini, even China. Much as China is not the only problem, the terms on which we took that Exim Bank loan is a problem.
Please tell me some of these problematic terms.
Okay, so we borrowed expensively in that the duration, we borrowed from China for a very short term duration to put the money into the SGR. So you borrow heavily, put the money in SGR. Have you asked, will SGR generate the money to pay that loan? And if SGR will begin making money maybe in 40 years and you're repaying the loan in 15 years, pesa zinatoka wapi?
Oh my God, no.
And it is then, we've never seen the contract. Right?
By the way,
there's a case in court. So, and there were rumors that were confirmed recently that the collateral the government used is the Kenya Ports Authority. Mombasa port.
Okay.
Wait,
The Mombasa port is the collateral. Yani, if we are not able to pay back that China loan, China will come and take over the port operations. They did this in Zambia. They did this in Zambia, and Zambians went up in arms. In fact, they kicked out that president because they said, hii mambo ya madeni hatutaki. Don't auction our future. So China is a problem. But then, like I said, with debt, when you borrow, the main thing is how expensive is it?
Yeah.
If you're financing your, maybe you have a small business, maybe it's a saloon business,
Yeah.
you need to buy some new hair dryer,
Yeah.
and you need to borrow.
Yeah.
And you borrow at 5%,
Yes.
and somebody else borrows at 10%,
You
see, the higher the interest repayment, then the heavier it is on you to pay back, right? So the cost of borrowing matters. The duration of repayment matters. Kenya borrowed irresponsibly. Then the second thing is, where are you putting the money? Because all countries borrow. You've had the president saying even Japan wako 200%, but there is a trick there, because Japan borrows domestically. They borrow in yen. They are borrowing from their citizens. They borrow over a period of 50 years. So they borrowed heavily, but their repayment is gentle.
And it's internal.
It's internal. It doesn't depend on the exchange rate. When COVID happens, yani, they are dealing with their issues. It's like borrowing from your mom to do your kabiashara,
Yes.
as opposed to going to a bank.
You
see, ukipata shida, you can negotiate with your mom.
Japan are good people. Japan are good people.
Lakini ukumbuke walikuja hapa and they've negotiated for tax exemption on their stuff in Kenya, and we don't know why.
No, now listen.
We don't know why.
Listen, at least.
I'm
Listen.
You should be
stressed,
Yes.
As we really okoa uchumi here, Japan doesn't seem to be very bad,
Yes.
As opposed to who?
To China, who we have our port as their collateral. Our port will be Wuhan Hung Port. And where is your last destination?
Wuhan. We have to learn Chinese. But the thing to ask yourself, is China the problem, or are the government officials who negotiated for us?
Of course, we're the problem.
We are the problem.
There you go.
We are the problem.
China is not part of this, what is called the Paris Group. This Paris Group is bound by some principles of governance that you cannot lend on predatory terms. You can't Shylock people. That they try to protect the borrowers. China is not part of that.
Whoa.
And China's lending has been chukueni pesa. Why? They have their own agenda. Cindy, or the Belt and Road Initiative. They want to become a global financial power.
What?
Yes. So, but the responsibility lies where?
It
Are we
comes
not
back to us.
Aren't we a sovereign country?
The buck stops with us. You understand? The government official, the people, actually from the president, the people who go out and negotiate and come with these loans.
Article
and put them
1. We are a sovereign country. Sovereignty is vested in the people of Kenya to be exercised by the political representatives. So the government, the executive arm and the political arm work for us. We are a sovereign country. When we negotiate with another sovereign country, do we turn around and blame that sovereign country for giving us bad terms?
I mean, we went, we asked, they gave us.
So somebody left this country and went and auctioned us.
Buddha.
Exactly.
Jesus
Can
Christ.
I add something?
Shock me.
This is why we had to come together. And I won't shock you, because this one we know. So we've borrowed expensively.
Yeah.
We've put it, and giving an example of China. China is not the only one. There are other bad investments. You put money in an investment that will not give you returns. So right now, China, the SGR is losing 200 million a day.
What?
Just running it. And we love SGR. I love SGR. I really love SGR. I wish the chairs used to recline, but I love SGR.
What?
It's losing 200 million a day, but we are still repaying the loan. So the point is, the investment was the wrong one. Last thing is, a good chunk of the China money, of that money, disappeared into pockets. So then add corruption. So it is like going to the bank to borrow for your salon, and instead of using it on your salon, you
go on a holiday.
You go exactly. Exactly. So ukirudi utapatana na you have to repay.
Deborah Absa atakuwa hapa nje aseme, hi Kamene, how are you doing?
No, they will not send Deborah.
No,
They can't.
Or this.
They'll send this na koti yake kubwa, and that is what will soon happen to us. The people who start to negotiate with us will not be there, because these people will want their money. We might not be able to pay, or we will not be able to pay.
So what government has done, because they've made big mistakes. There has been corruption. We got into what is called a fiscal consolidation program. Tulienda kwa IMF.
Again.
People go to IMF. That is like going into receivership, where you say, sasa tumeshindwa, tusaidie. Give us some money on good terms and we'll behave and we'll stop those bad manners. We will stop overspending money on allowances. Kila wakati tunazunguka. We'll stop giving tax exemptions. We are collecting money to pay debts. But instead of collecting money, kuna wale ambao hawalipi. Why don't they pay? Maybe you're politically connected, unapewa exemption hapa. Mwingine anakuja exemption. Kenya lost about 800. The CS was saying, I think about 800 million in uncollected revenue in 2019. Right? So our debt is 1 trillion, but then in our collections, we are losing between 600 to 800 million. 800 billion, sorry. 800 billion.
Okay, who sits in this government?
How will you pay if when they are collecting revenue, people pocket some of it? So there's a lot of corruption. You then give exemptions, whatever is collected. So, tumelala, Wakenya tumelala.
What?
Guys,
tumelala, tuamke.
We are in Sobibo.
Bossy, at least Sobibo hawana daily. Sobibo is not in receivership. What? I want us to take a look at the traffic situation, but when we come back, we're going to try and find out what we can do about this situation, because we're in receivership as a country. What's that? That is Heart the Band and Yashinsky. Oh yeah, it's not all doom and gloom here. I will be a star. Come hello, high water. Yo, welcome back to the Morning Kiss. 8 minutes to 8. I'm Kamene.
Hey, VJ Baba.
Of course, in the studio with us, we have Wanjiru Gikonyo from Okoa Uchumi.
Okoa Uchumi, kwa sababu as we sit here,
Mazeni kufiam.
things are bad.
Kume smell. This is crazy. We were talking about Kenya's debt crisis. And if you have been listening in, our country is in a real-time crisis. Straight down to the point where you can almost say our country is in receivership. We are deep, not knee-deep. Tumezama kwa deni. But at the heart of Okoa Uchumi is finding the solutions to the problem. So we've seen how bad it is, but there is hope that we can fix it, right?
Well, we have to. You know, every generation has a responsibility to contribute towards social justice in their time. Mm-hmm. In the 90s, there was a generation that fought for multipartyism. Mm-hmm. If you go back to the independence time, there was a generation that fought for that independence.
Yes.
90s, from 80s to 90s, there was a generation that fought for multi-party democracy.
Yes.
If you look at the 2000s, we've been fighting for good governance.
Yes.
For the constitution, which we managed to get.
Yes.
Now we are fighting for the implementation of the constitution. We are fighting to change our culture. So we all have a responsibility. So wherever we are, we have to realize that the price of they say the price of democracy is eternal vigilance. That once you agree, yes, I'm part of a democratic society, you have to be eternally engaged, eternally watching. So this idea we have that come elections, we talk to our MPs or aspirants, we get something small, we vote and then disappear.
Yeah.
It means as Kenyans we failed to understand the democratic to engage democratically, so that we are part of the problem. Because the moment you give power to our political leaders, to this executive, and we keep quiet, they will then violate us in the way we've been violated. Mm-hmm. So Okoa Uchumi seeks to get citizens engaged.
Okay.
By education, let's understand.
Yeah.
Let us talk about it.
Yeah.
Let them know we know. Even that is something.
Yes.
Let them know we know. And then let us engage. So, for instance, tomorrow we have a procession. Tomorrow is Anti-Corruption Day.
Oh, wow.
Anti-Corruption Day internationally. And in Kenya, in Nairobi, we'll mark it through this procession.
Yeah.
We've come together. We'll be meeting at Jivanji Gardens, processing around the CBD to build solidarity for ourselves, to remind ourselves that it's our country.
Yeah.
Article 1 vests sovereignty in the people of Kenya.
Yes.
And so we have a duty under Article 3 to protect and uphold the Constitution.
Completely.
So if we do nothing, we are part of the problem. We are as bad as those people who sit in public office. I was looking at some statistics here about the COVID. We borrowed money last year because of the crisis that we all know.
Yeah.
Jobs lost, businesses lost, households in food insecurity. We borrowed from the IMF, from the World Bank, and still managed to steal 7.8 billion COVID billionaires. Sindio? See, Kenyans were disgusted.
Hey.
We don't even like to talk about it.
Yeah.
Right. So that 7.8 billion, had it not been stolen, that's equivalent to 52,000 ICU beds. So those billions, they didn't just walk away with money. They also walked away with the facilities to support
the
Kenya.
crisis that
Yes.
They walked away with our lives.
They walked away with our
Literally.
lives. So we were looking also and
Remember,
saying
guys,
52,000 fully kitted ICU beds.
Do you remember people were dying in waiting
The
rooms?
death stands at around 5,000.
Yeah.
Imagine.
Another one is the counties again, apart from the KEMSA COVID billionaires, and it's scandalous. 7.7 billion at county level of these COVID funds could not be accounted.
Wait.
Also disappeared.
At county level.
So you're saying KEMSA sini huku juu. KEMSA COVID billionaires walijipanga, wakaitana, wakaenda, wakachukua pesa suitcase, 7.8 ikadisappear. Then there's another, tuko na pesa, msiseme hatuna, another 7.7 billion at county level could not be accounted for. This could have been enough to establish a vaccine manufacturing facility in Kenya.
Wow.
See, we are saying hatuna vaccines. This is what we lose. We could right now there is a plan in the budget to borrow money to finance a vaccine facility.
Don't do it.
Kumbe pesa zishaenda. We are now borrowing to where do you start? So we are having a procession.
Yes.
And I hope you can post on your
Socials.
on your socials. I hope you can join us. It's 10 to midday tomorrow.
Tomorrow.
Yes, tomorrow.
Okay.
And we are saying that we are done with corruption. We are tired of corruption. We are tired of corruption in debt. And we are lending our voice. And we will launch a petition. And this petition is targeting those public officers who have failed to protect us. And our aim is to get Kenyans to join the Okoa Uchumi movement so that we can continue to put pressure on public officers. Mtu akikalia hiyo kiti ajue wa Kenya wanamwangalia hivi. So that we move from being unhappy, talking and posting, which is great, to action. So that those public officers who work for us can work for us. We are their employer after all.
I love it. Accountability, my people. And there you have it, the solution, the first step to solving our problem. Thank you so much, Wanjiru, for coming through.
Asante sana. Where is the procession starting from?
Jivanji.
That's where the meeting point.
Yes, 10 o'clock, Jivanji.
Okay.
Umesikia watu wangu? Alrighty, my people, let's see what's in the news.
Kiss FM is the station of stars.